So imagine this. You wake up in this bright, sunshiny world, ready to go on a big adventure. Yeah, you might face some turn-based battles along the way, or find yourself within the midst of some very dramatic plot points. But for now, you are just ready to go and explore your hometown, finding out what your ultimate quest is, and preparing for the journey ahead. But before any of that, you hear the notes of a very soothing and oddly familiar song, even though you're pretty sure you've never heard it. It's the song of the opening town in a JRPG. And oh boy, with how many JRPGs there are a lot of these as well. Lots of opening towns and lots of opening town themes. And that is the big topic I want to talk about today. Hi everybody, my name's Alex, aka Qualitea, and welcome back to the channel. And welcome to my wrist brace. I'm having some very bad wrist issues right now, so we're trying our best. So yeah, this is a very specific topic that I want to talk about, but talking about video game OSTs has been kind of my goal since I started YouTube. Don't worry, this is still going to be very much so a gaming variety kind of channel, but I really want to incorporate more music stuff into it. For those of you who don't know, I went to college for music. I actually teach private flute lessons and high school drumline, and basically my whole life outside of video games is music. So it only seemed natural that I do some music content alongside all of the video game content as well. So town themes in general are a really interesting topic, which I'm going to save that for a later date because I could go on and on and on about different town themes and how they work within the bigger sphere of the game that they're in. But I feel like first town themes are really special. A lot of them have this very big sense of hominess and comfort to them. And they all happen in a lot of different ways too, depending on the game and the theming of the game and all of that. First town themes in RPGs are some of the first songs that you hear throughout your entire gameplay experience, and they're some of the ones that might be the most memorable. They're the ones you come home to after big stretches of your journey to go see how things have changed, or maybe the plot brings you back, or maybe you just want to go back for a little bit for old time's sake. So I thought that would be kind of an interesting first musical topic to talk about. I do also want to give a disclaimer, this isn't going to be any grand kind of musical analysis. I'm not going to go over the chordal structure of these songs or anything like that. I might throw out a few musical terms here and there, but this is much more of a casual analysis. You know, more hardcore musical analysis are fine, and they have a place, and maybe someday I'd like to do them. I want to keep it a little more casual for those who might not know as much about music. And, you know, music at its core is a lot more about feeling and how it makes you feel and how it relates back, in this context, to the game and the towns that we're talking about. So I want to approach it from that angle more than a harmonic, melodic kind of look at it. So there you go. So I wanted to talk about my top 7 starting town themes. I say 7, but there's really 8 because I do have an honorable mention. I kept it mainly to the top 7 of the games that I've played because I have a much stronger connection with those ones, but I did want to make a very important honorable mention that every single person that I talked to about this topic really wanted me to include. So for starters, for our honorable mention, we have Lazy Afternoons from Kingdom Hearts 2. Now, I've never played any of the Kingdom Hearts games, and I'm really sorry. It's mainly due to, especially within the early games, PS2 induced motion sickness. I've told you before, it's a problem. Weirdly enough, of all of the Kingdom Hearts gameplay that I've seen, I think I've seen the opening of Kingdom Hearts 2 more than any other Kingdom Hearts thing ever. Why that is, I don't really know. So having limited knowledge of the lore of the series, I can only relate my musical thoughts of Lazy Afternoons back to the plot just based on what I know. But in the first chapter of Kingdom Hearts 2, you're actually playing as Roxas, and you're hanging out with all of your friends in Twilight Town, trying to discover what's going on with all these weird things happening around town. So Lazy Afternoons was composed by the incredible Yoko Shimomura, and this is not the first time you're going to hear her name on this list. It immediately captures the feeling of warmth that one could experience on a summer afternoon spent with friends. A lot of this is attributed to the instrumentation. The soft guitar strumming and the strings lay a lullaby-like foundation, while the soprano saxophone plays the melody of the piece. Which, also, fun fact, soprano saxophones tend to have a very warm tone and are actually used in a lot of pieces of video game music for this exact reason. It's a pretty versatile instrument overall, but I love hearing it in softer pieces like this. It really just shows the gentle side of the instrument. That all being said though, I find it really funny that most of the top 10 Kingdom Hearts songs lists that I looked at for extra info for talking about this song listed the solo as a flute solo? Why, I do not know, but it was quite literally almost all of them. Amplified even further by the warm color palette of Twilight Town, this piece just feels like a warm summer afternoon. It's not only a calming piece of music, but it has this hopeful feel to it. A hope that days like this with friends could never end. And for number 7 on the list, we have Town from Final Fantasy I. And yes, it is just called Town. And yes, maybe it is a little bit of cheating because this theme is used in all of the towns in Final Fantasy I, based on memory, but it also plays in Qualitea, and that is what matters because that's the first town, so there you go. Final Fantasy I was the first game I played in the series via a port on the PSP, so this piece has some strong memories associated with the beginning of my Final Fantasy adventure. The piece is extremely calming, reminding you that the town is a place of respite and recovery, a place to replenish your supplies and rest for the upcoming journey. Nobuo Uematsu's track has been rearranged and remastered so many times since the original NES release, but even the original 8-bit chiptunes capture so much of that same calming emotion. Many rearrangements utilize the guitar to play the opening notes of the piece, which definitely reigns supreme in terms of relaxing instruments. I find this track to be extremely iconic, not just in the world of Final Fantasy. It quite literally stirs so many nostalgic emotions about the beginning of my journey with the Warriors of Light. Sometimes I hear it, I smile, and I feel like I need to cry. Now for something completely different. At number 6, we have Rogueport from Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. Rogueport is definitely a standout on this list. Many of the other opening town themes give this sense of, oh, you're okay to take a little break here, no worries. Need to refill your supplies? Absolutely. Whereas this one just kind of slaps you in the face and tells you to get out. And quite literally, this song slaps and is perfectly fitting for the theme of Rogueport. As the name implies, Rogueport is full of scummy people. This place is anything but safe. And the music does a great job at capturing that. You have a very jaunty line in the high strings that's very reminiscent of sea shanties, which is fitting for a port setting, of course. It definitely makes me feel like I want to go on this treasure hunting adventure to find the crystal stars. But underneath that, you have this more sinister line in the synths and lower instruments that remind you you're not safe here. And that there's a much darker plot buried beneath all of that treasure. This piece is also extremely percussive, which further evokes the feeling of exploring a bustling port town, and also just reaffirms its certified bop rating. While no one composer is listed for this specific track, the composers of Thousand-Year Door, Yoshito Hirano, Yuka Sugiyoko, and Saki Haruyama did a phenomenal job with the whole soundtrack. This track, however, just captures the feeling of the location so very well, while still having that same kind of fun Mario charm. You have to return to Rogueport a lot throughout the game, and after a few visits back, this piece really starts to feel oddly homey. Like, ah yes, my favorite gross little town where everyone wants me dead. Good to be back. Now, this wouldn't be a list without something from Xenoblade, so at number 5 we have Hometown from Xenoblade Chronicles. So despite the song that's called Colony 9 not being the song that's actually played here, Hometown is a beautifully fitting piece of music for the starting town that, when played one right after the other, like from walking outside of Colony 9 to inside of Colony 9, it flows so well together. It's like a perfect flow between adventure and the comforts of home. Carrying on from Colony 9, Hometown has a beautifully soothing violin line line that picks up in intensity as more instruments are added into the mix. Throughout the piece, there are moments where other instruments take the reign, namely the oboe. Another one of my weird musical quirks, whenever there's an oboe, it's always got to be one of these few things. A theme of love, which I feel like in some weird way, Hometown kind of fits into that category, or an extremely depressing song. Paired with the ambient chirping of birds in-game, this song is simply a sweet, relaxing song to listen to as you wander around Colony 9 with your friends. Xenoblade is known for its extremely just big songs, and while Hometown is on the softer side, it still maintains a lot of the same kind of energy behind it. A need for adventure, but also a reminder of the peace that you're trying to protect. A big theme in Xenoblade is friendship, which goes back to why I feel like this is almost a love song in a way. It reminds us that no matter where our journey may take us, the memories of our days spent in town with friends will always remain a happy one. I should also note that for those who don't play Xenoblade, locations have day and night tracks. For this list, I'm specifically talking about the day track, but the nighttime version is gorgeous. The flute kind of takes the reign on that one, and it just embodies the same kind of spirit that the daytime one does, while still being so much more calming and just reminding you that the day is coming to a close. Number 4 is another iconic one that I feel if you asked many JRPG fans what their favorite opening town theme is, it would be this one, and it's Peaceful Days from Chrono Trigger. So this was of course one of the first tracks that I thought of when I had thought about this video, and of course that is with good reason. Composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, this piece captures the immediately homey feeling of truce right away. Nothing can stop me from getting immediate chills upon hearing the opening plucks from the harp, as it continues into the main melody, which is just this beautiful yet not overly complicated line. The harp continues with this repeated ostinato-like phrase that gives this sense of familiarity, especially to longtime Square Enix fans. Another little musical fun fact, harps are used a lot in Square Enix games. Have you noticed? You probably should have by now because they're in everything, namely Final Fantasy. The main melody expands a little bit by adding the full string section, but again, it maintains its familiarity and warmth. This piece is so hopeful, and it just feels like home. I feel this piece is especially fitting given the nature of the game itself. Throughout your adventures in the game, whenever you return to this time, this song is there to welcome you and your friends home. It's definitely a comforting constant in your adventure. Now, another SNES classic, we have Onett from Earthbound, which I actually talked about kind of recently in my Summer Games video, which, if you haven't watched it, you really should. It was a really fun video and just full of lots of summer gaming memories, and I talk about Earthbound in it for a little bit as well. So this piece deceptively starts out like it's going to be in the soothing opening town theme category, and then it immediately goes back into your standard Earthbound fare. This is another piece that feels simultaneously homey, but also makes you feel excited for the adventure ahead. In fact, the subtitle for this track is literally "Let the Adventure Begin." So the great thing about the SNES is that due to its ability to play up to 8 notes at once, and of course the obvious upgrade in sound quality, it gave composers the ability to finally compose game music more like they would any other kind of composition. I feel like Keiichi Suzuki was able to put so much more personality in this track due to significantly less limitations, which I think that's another reason why SNES music is just so iconic in general. It's really an era where a lot of those bigger gaming iconic themes came from. I mean, Link to the Past, Super Mario World, all of those kinds of games. So many video game tracks that are still staples to this day came from that era. After the initial opening, it has a very percussive introduction that goes into its very plucky main melody. It's a very joyous kind of tune that's so obviously Earthbound. When we get into the part with the horns, for me, that's the moment where it really drives home the "we're about to go on an adventure" part, as it's a surprisingly triumphant little part of the song. I talked about this in my Summer Games video, but Earthbound as a whole captures the idea of kids going out on a big adventure, and I think that as a starting town theme, Onett only reaffirms that idea. It's really playful, hopeful, and just full of joy. Some of you may be wondering, where's the Pokemon? Well, here's the Pokemon, and this was a tough one to pick. I knew I wanted to include Pokemon somewhere on this list, but I didn't know which starting town. And then after comparing a few of them, I had to go with the one that is just my absolute favorite, my personal favorite. That's Little Root Town from Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Pallet Town was extremely close, but when I listened to them both back to back, the feelings I got from Little Root Town were just a little bit more emotional, so I figured I'd go with this one. There's just a lot of very warm and fuzzy feelings associated with that track. I adore the music of this generation in general, and this specific track was composed by one of the more well-known Pokemon composers, Go Ichinose, and it's just so good. It's just so nice. The moment I hear this track, I'm instantaneously taken back to when I was about 9 years old playing this game for the first time. Your character just moved here, and yet the music welcomes you with open arms to this new region, feeling more like home every time you return to Little Root throughout your adventure. This song is very joyful, and it's emphasized by the GBA sound font that I came to absolutely adore. Seriously, there are so many good bops on the GBA, I consider it underrated. I'll be honest, I don't have much actual analysis kind of ideas to go with this one, but just know this song makes me feel like having my windows open on a nice summer day, getting my stuff together to go on a big adventure, and then heading out on my way. And our final track of the list, which is my personal favorite, which is why I saved it for last. I will say, the ranking in this list isn't exactly like, yes, these are absolutely my top 7, but they are 7 of my favorites, and this was the order I thought it was best to talk about them in. But this one I can safely say is probably my favorite on this list because of how different it is, and that is Hometown Domina from Legend of Mana. This one is once again composed by the wonderful Yoko Shimomura, and I have a very special relationship with this song. I heard it for the first time as a part of like some Square Enix collaboration music thing, and I had only played Secret of Mana at the time. I didn't know much about the rest of the Mana games, especially not Legend of Mana. I heard the song and I knew I wanted to play Legend of Mana, which I did, and I love Legend of Mana. But we'll talk more about that at the end of the year when we go through all the games that I played throughout the year. But I really liked Legend of Mana a lot. This piece fits so well with the town of Domina and all of its unique inhabitants. Fun fact, it's in F sharp minor, which I personally find to be a really fun key. It gives off this sense of mischievousness, especially in the opening of the piece. The middle section feels like the homiest part to me. It's a lot smoother and slightly more joyful, and then the main melody comes back with a slightly reduced instrumentation that once again builds up. And I don't know, I just really love how this piece sounds. It's not your typical homey sounding song. A lot of that's emphasized by the fact that it's in a minor key as opposed to a major key, which, quick musical lesson, minor keys are typically sadder sounding. Major keys are typically happier sounding. It's a very reduced thing. I love talking about minor keys. It's one of my favorite things to bring up in lessons because I love minor keys. They're my favorite. But it still captures that same feeling of a bustling, bright town full of interesting characters. A nice place to return home to after exploring the world around you for sure. And there we have it, a bunch of starting town themes from JRPGs, some of my favorites. I don't know if this is how all of my kind of more musical videos are gonna go. I have a lot of ideas for more of these, but I thought this was a really nice one to start with, and I had a lot of fun. I've been waiting to do this video for a really, really long time. It's been in the works, and I just can't wait to do even more video game OST stuff. So if you liked this, please let me know. I'd love to know, and I'd also love to know your favorite starting town. It can be in a JRPG or it can be in any other thing. This almost wasn't just a JRPG exclusive list because I had Zelda stuff I wanted to add on and just a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, there's so much to talk about in this kind of topic. So let me know your favorite and why. I'd love to know why you think that whatever your choice is a great theme for a starting town. And of course, if you like what you see here and you're not already subscribed, I'd really appreciate it. We do a whole lot of different video game kind of content here. You know, we have JRPG stuff, we've got cozy games, we've got Nintendo, we just do a lot of stuff. We do whatever I'm feeling like. And right now I'm really feeling like doing a lot of video game music content. So definitely expect more of that. But alright everybody, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!